Okay, what's going on, everybody? John Zannis, Taylor Kyles. We haven't popped in a little bit, so we're going to come in and talk and just see what's going on in a kind of a quiet lull of the Patriots offseason right now,
Yeah.
which is fine. This is how it goes, right, Taylor? We got a month to the NFL draft. The first wave of free agent signings happened. There's still some guys out there. There's still some of those same names possibly available for trade. Splash players still on the free agent market are very few and far between. So really at this point, we're basically talking about whether or not the Patriots are going to make a trade. And the names they've been associated with of the three receivers that are kind of sitting out there in either trade or sign land continue to be the same. DeAndre Hopkins, Jerry Jeudy, and Odell Beckham. We're going to go over a little bit about what's going on with each of those receivers. We're going to talk about an interesting thing that's happening with the Patriots coaching staff that may or may not be a thing. But again, we'll talk about it and get Taylor's thoughts. And then we'll just kind of talk about where they stand right now. There's a pretty healthy debate going on right now about their improvements and how significant those improvements have been. We'll talk about that as well. We will also take some of your questions near the back end of this show and kind of get some thoughts about what's on your mind right now. Let's start by telling you about our sponsor, which is FanDuel, exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. As you know, sports betting legal in Mass. If you want to take advantage of a really good bonus, while there's still an opportunity to, head over to fanduel.com/Boston. If you go there, fanduel.com/Boston, one, they'll know that we sent you, which is great for us. And two, you will get a $200 in bonus bets when you make your first $5 wager. So there's no reason to not do this if it's something you're interested in doing and you want to sign up and take advantage of that offer. FanDuel.com/Boston. Let's start with the hard news. Well, hard news-ish. The report about Joe Judge. I just want your take here. And again, I think the internet freaked out here, and I don't believe there's any cause for it because the report was that Joe Judge will be the assistant head coach. And I don't believe that Joe Judge is actually the assistant head coach. I believe Joe Judge is like assistant to the head coach. I do not believe Joe Judge. I personally don't believe that Joe Judge, that they convinced Gerard Mayo to stay, not take head coaching interviews even for an elevated role and a promise for maybe what's to come, and Bill O'Brien to leave his gig and come over here with a little bit of autonomy to kind of rework the offense the way he sees fit. And then they're going to stick Joe Judge in front of both of those guys on the org chart and be like, yeah, you want to talk to me, talk to him first. That's not happening, I don't believe.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. And our buddy Evan Lazar, I'm pretty sure he said that when Dante Scarnecchia had the title he has or a similar title, it didn't actually change his responsibilities. In Scarnecchia's case, I don't think it was really like to try to get his name out there or get him head coaching jobs necessarily.
Respect.
Right, exactly. Because Scar had been through all these different regimes and was like one of the few mainstays throughout decades. But with Judge, this seems more like maybe something where Bill is trying to help him get another position in the future. And for one thing, Judge, let's remember that this is someone who's worked under Nick Saban and Bill Belichick. You know, I remember his Giants press conference. When you hear the way the execution, obviously in New York was not great, but when you kind of hear how he speaks and the emphasis he puts on teaching and things like that, he's a very valuable person to have on your staff, and it'll be even better now that he has special teams duties back. I think essentially his job is going to be, de facto special teams coordinator, or maybe a consultant type of thing. Where he helps make those final decisions, because obviously Cam McCord as a coach has struggled. The Patriots special teams haven't been quite as good since Judge left for New York. So I think realistically, it's probably a good decision. One that, if Bill trusts you and you're still under his watch and in his building, I think it's fine. It's usually when these guys go off or have to fill roles they're not used to is when you start seeing the cracks form. But before that, everyone loved Joe Judge. So I think this is one of those moves where you kind of got to look at him through the Patriots lens and not necessarily like Joe Judge, the quarterback's coach, but Joe Judge, special teamer, consultant to Belichick, and someone who has experience. Even though he wasn't a great head coach, he still knows how to put plans together, how it feels to be in those shoes. Obviously, Matt Patricia, it was similar last year, although, again, that didn't work out because he was outside of his element. So I think it's a fine move. I doesn't move the needle a huge amount for me outside of the special teams part. Just means that maybe Judge has earned higher. I don't want to say pecking order because really I don't know personally what comes with this job. But like you said, sign of respect. Maybe it helps him get a job in the future. And for all we know, he's done a solid job as a coach.
Yeah,
And even McCourty gave him and Patricia credit also yesterday,
yeah,
saying that in training camp the offense didn't even look like it could go onto a field professionally. I'm kind of I'm mixing the words a little bit here, but basically said they didn't look like a functional offense in training camp, and they got better as the season went on, which he said people aren't going to like, but is a testament to Judge and Patricia for at least helping them improve rather than it being a disaster from the beginning of the year all the way through. So,
yeah. So that's part of what's right. I think the freak out here, both kind of in this chat and online, is we've seen the reporting, right? And
mhm.
particularly Andrew Callahan's very detailed, like large report about the behind the scenes dysfunction.
That was
Which, and
awesome.
again, Andrew Callahan, one, a terrific piece of reporting, two, outstanding reporter in general who also has a podcast here at the CLNS Media Network, Pat's Interference, that you should check out, subscribe to. It really is
Great
great.
name.
But in that, so much of it, like there was overall dysfunction, but so much was like at Judge and the way he talked to people and the way he treated people and the type of respect he commanded and how not detail oriented he was and how sloppy it all was. Patricia was in massively over his head for sure, but Judge, just based on just it's been two sets of these types of reviews, both
Mhm.
leaving New York with 3 years left on his deal, leaving, being fired, and then here. So I think people are like, I don't want this guy. The idea is players didn't want to hear from him at all, and certainly Mac Jones did not.
Yeah.
So keeping him as far away from players and especially the offense, I think matters, and I don't think people really want to deal with him. What I
Yeah.
believe, though, is and a big part of this is he's free, guys. He only exists because the Giants are paying him. He's being paid for 2 more years here.
Yeah.
There's no reason to let him go because there's not really a job that he's doing. He's not occupying any role on the team that you have to pay someone actual money to do. So he's around in the same role that Patricia was around 2 years ago when the
Mhm.
Lions were paying his salary after he was fired in an advisory capacity. And what you said at the beginning, I believe, is all you're going to get out of Judge, which is
Mhm.
some football knowledge, a trusted voice who was here before and had some success within this organization, a guy who was clearly miscast in the role they put him in last year, but still knows a thing or two about a thing or two. What has he proven? He's not head coach, at least not yet. He's
Yeah.
not an offensive coordinator, but he has made a career and a life out of doing this football thing, and he's been successful doing some other things, which is, I think, what they're going to lean on him for, an advisor to special teams without flat out having to fire someone to put him into that role, I think is where it's going to come in and make sure that he's devoting attention there. So basically, they kind of named him special teams guy without really naming him that, and to not really demote anybody else there, but he's going to be overseeing special teams and letting other guys kind of hang in the trenches there. I think this is a no harm, no foul situation and
Yeah.
nothing for people to get worked up about who are really concerned about Judge either having too large a voice or being too involved with the players.
Yeah, and you mentioned from Callahan's report, the fact that the way he talks to people, like you said, was a problem in New York. It was a problem last year, and you also have to remember like who he was talking to. Sometimes these coaches forget that. I mean, not necessarily him, but he's worked in college as well. Sometimes you forget you're talking to grown men. This isn't somebody who can dangle a scholarship over his head and be like, "Dude, what the f I tell you to do?" These are men where, unless you have a proven track record, if you talk to them a certain kind of way, they're going to be like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! What? Who do you think you're talking to?" Because these are adults. And it's one thing when it's special teams. A lot of those guys are at the bottom of the roster. The vets will understand. But if you're good at your job, it gives you a lot more leeway. Like McCourty was saying, how Patricia used to always scream at them and all the things that Patricia got dumped on for when he was a Lion, because people were saying, like, we don't have that respect for you yet. Don't talk to us like you're some Super Bowl winning coach on your own, like you weren't working for Bill Belichick. So when these guys are outside of their, established corners, and then that, harder, maybe more old school kind of coaching comes out, it rubs people the wrong way. And clearly it just did not go well at all on the offense. But now that, again, he's with special teams, further away from those roles and his voice is more valuable and he can say like, no, I have a proven track record here. I just, like you said, it's really a no-lose situation. I think this is probably a really good move.
The thing you mentioned also is literally the same mistake almost every single Patriots assistant has made leaving here.
Except for Flores.
Flores, no, you can say Dable, you can say other people that take
Dable as well, true.
They've taken different approaches. Flores actually is one of the few guys who could say like, you're friggin' doing it my way, and actually commanded that respect. He had that type of presence and leadership ability. Most don't. Most didn't. Most go somewhere else and demand the type of devotion and allegiance Bill Belichick would get from his players after the track record, both of winning and honestly, being the best strategist, the best everything throughout. His judgment on all matters and his attention to detail was beyond reproach. Yeah. So he had that, which meant you literally had to do every single thing that he said. And if he called you out, you knew you were wrong. You knew he caught something.
Exactly.
Those guys don't have that cachet going anywhere else. And when they couple that with, not seeing success right away and being jerks, it goes south fast. Patricia was under fire like 3 weeks into camp. You've seen that. McDaniels in Denver, that happened fast for him.
Brandon Marshall still does not like him. He cut deep when he was in Denver.
deep. Those there, like we did not feel like we were treated like men, So a lot of people keep making that mistake when they leave here. And Judge, I think, was in that school too, of kind of like tough, my way or the highway, and then really didn't hold himself accountable for any of the stuff that went wrong. So again, I don't believe he's in any real position of authority. I think everybody can chill a little bit there. Yeah. But when that alert first came through from that report from Albert Breer, everyone was like, what? Assistant what?
Yeah. Which, I mean, when you first read it, it's very fair. But I even thought, I was like, why is he being promoted? What's happening? And then you actually think about it. You're like, all right,
it's not real. It's not real. Again, that's my foot. Neither you or I know. But again, it makes the most sense that that's more likely what the type of role that it is. So again, I think everybody can chill a little bit on that front. Let's get into some of the other things going on. And again, everything is like, I'm not going to call it a chess match here, but there is a clear waiting game for everybody, and Hopkins and or Judy. We talked about it on the last show, and we do believe that, that the Judy thing is Denver trying to get a first round pick.
Yeah.
And if they don't, then they're not going to deal. So I don't think that price comes down. Personally, I just don't see it. I don't see the value in a second round pick unless it's a top of the second round for them. I think they want to see if they can sneak out a first rounder and be happy with it. The Hopkins stuff continues to be that thing where we know he wants out. We know they want to trade him. We know the market is not what they want it to be. And it's literally just a game of chicken at this point. There's no, if everyone ran out and did what they thought he was, what Arizona wanted in the beginning, they might have overpaid. So we talked about how the Patriots were right to show patience. But at what point, Taylor, does it get to waiting so long because you think you have the leverage and the advantage, and then watch him get traded for something that you're like, oh, crap, I would have done that, and not be able to get in on that opportunity if, in fact, you want it. To me, it's a matter of, if you really want the guy, just get it done. Don't go crazy and overpay, set your lines, but just get it done. If you don't care and it's really only worth whatever to you, it's a different story. I don't know the Patriots' mindset here, but you see something and again, take it with a grain of salt. Scott Zolak gets on radio, and he does this a lot. It's really close. Something's happening. That's not real. But look, Zoe knows people in the building. I think he's hearing some buzz. But unless he's actually in there on the negotiating table, I highly doubt that he knows how close something is. But at least that speaks to me, Taylor, that there's a desire to make a move within the organization, within the walls, and they have their eyes open that some of these people out there are appealing, but it really is as much a matter of price as it is whether or not you actually want the player here.
Yeah, Zoe's got 2 strikes this offseason for me. Next time he says something like this and he's wrong, I'm muting, I'm doing everything. Yeah, I mean, Hopkins is still like I'm writing about it right now. What he is a possession receiver at this point, like short to intermediate target. You know, everybody wants the big splash name and everything, but really what you want is the skill set and what they bring. Now, that's my reservation about Hopkins. Like, obviously, age. You don't really know if he's going to be this good or a number one legitimately in 2 years. But you want it for 1 year, and he gives you great hands, obviously. He is that number one who I was looking, and even the Patriots, they barely played man coverage against the Cardinals. But when they did, every single time they were in the red zone, Hopkins had a very obvious bracket and even got thrown to once, and it didn't work. So he's somebody who still commands the kind of attention that you're hoping for if you were to trade for somebody, where it's the kind of guy who it's like, okay, it's, 3rd and 10, we have to double team this person, and then it makes everybody else's jobs easier, and you get those one-on-one matchups. But at the same time, I don't know that he can execute at a level that people would maybe expect. Like, I don't think he's going to be like 1,000-yard receiver necessarily for them. He could be, but I don't know. It's just he has a skill set that so many guys on their team have, that outside of the name and people just being like, this is DeAndre Hopkins, we can't just let him do whatever he wants. It doesn't move the needle for me a ton if you have to give up anything significant for him. Like, if it's a second and a player, absolutely not. But then you flip it, and if you say Judy, a guy who's young, a guy who's explosive, who's a fantastic route runner and separator and all those things, Hopkins can still separate. Like, he's got enough quickness. It's just not really the burst that he used to have. But Judy's the guy that would really move the needle for the compensation that these teams are floating around. And I think the Patriots are only in it so much as, okay, let's see how low the price gets by the time, maybe Austin Fort calls us and is like, all right, we're about to pull the trigger. Would you like to match? Out of respect for his former team, whatever. Sure. But I don't see them as being the team that is really constantly making pushes to try to get him. I think they're making the calls, checking in, seeing where the market's at, and then like, all right, we'll wait it out, but we're still interested.
Yep. And so that's where that goes. But you have a few teams in there, and I believe the Bills had kind of jumped to the forefront on one of these stories. It's, and this was a report out there that Hopkins trademark and headlined by Bills. Now, what's interesting here is who the F knows whether it is or it isn't. But if you're looking at, the movement within the division and who's adding and whether or not you need to add, I think there's a different conversation that needs to be had here because, other people taking a step forward instead of you is a double whammy, so to speak. So you don't have to play defense necessarily in your signings. You worry about your roster, but you can't, when you're behind everyone else, you can't keep allowing them to keep stockpiling talent while you sit still. And so there's a couple of instances, both with the Bills and the Jets kind of getting involved with stuff here. We'll see if it pans out or not. That's definitely something that bears watching. We'll talk about that in a second. Want to just let everybody know once again about our exclusive wagering partners here at the CLNS Media Network. And that, of course, is FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Nowhere else you need to go. Massachusetts, again, as you know, wait is over. Sports betting now 2 weeks, basically, has been legal in the Bay State. You can get a $200 in bonus bets guaranteed if you place your first $5 bet here at FanDuel. Just make sure you go to FanDuel.com/Boston to take advantage of this offer. Once again, FanDuel.com/Boston. Whatever sports you want to get in on the action here, futures, player props, all that stuff, it's available there. It's a really easy to use app. I downloaded it. It's extremely easy to navigate and figure out what you're doing. Everything is very well explained. The odds, when you put a bet down, what you stand to lose, what you stand to win. So again, it's extremely easy, and it's trusted and true, and it's secure and it's safe. So FanDuel.com/Boston. Check it out. $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. Got to tell you, you got to be 21 or older and present in Massachusetts to take advantage of the deal. You must deposit $10 to begin with. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire in 14 days. Restrictions do apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Hope and help is here. Gambling helplinema.org. Once again, gamblinghelplinema.org, or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support. Let's jump back into the Bills situation here. The Bills are doing pretty well weapons-wise. And if they're in on DeAndre Hopkins, that would be an interesting compliment to go with Diggs and Davis and some of the other stuff they have going on there. And, you don't really want to see them any bit more difficult to defend or explosive as it is. So that's certainly, one thing. The other one is Odell Beckham to the Jets. You get someone like Aaron Rodgers coming in there, and he's got a lot of things that he wants. Again, very real interest is one report coupled with another, but the financials are still something to consider. So again, that doesn't mean anything to me because everyone has financials to consider. I'm sure the Patriots are really interested in lots of things, but of course there's a price, and we don't know what Odell's price is. We don't know what anyone else will willing to pay. What's clear is a lot of teams that have sniffed around on this guy have decided to go in another direction and move off of it. And when that happens, the market shrinks for them. Again, it only takes one, but you start to eliminate teams, then you never know where it's going to end up. Jets is something that might be in play here. So now we're looking at two big names, Jets and Bills, being tied to those guys today. It's not the reason to go out and get them, but again, we've talked about Beckham before. You had him at the top of your I would get this guy if you can sort of list. Is this something you want to explore? And again, you're looking at the Patriots somewhere in that kind of 12 million or so in cap rate. You can always move things around, but is this something?
They have plenty of extension candidates. Yeah, they can make the money if they needed to.
They can make all the money work. And so this isn't an issue. This is simply a matter of, do you want the guy?
Yeah, I want him, and the reason that he's at the top of my list is you don't have to give up draft capital for him.
Yep.
So, if he gets hurt or something like that, it's not, we already, gave away our second-round pick, and that could have been a good receiver or tackle, whatever you want. This is a guy where you just make the money. Cap financials are fine. The Patriots are in good shape. They've got at least 5 guys that I could think of off the dome that they might want to extend and make that money. And Odell, even though, like we've said, he doesn't have the explosiveness he used to have. He's not as fast. He's not the track star he once was. He's always been a fantastic route runner. He still has massive hands and needs custom-made gloves. And he's a smart football player. He's tough. We know all this. He loves the game, which for the Patriots, that's, may seem like an underrated thing. But when you do actually care, it's when you put the extra effort in, which has made Odell Beckham great when he's on the field, on top of the freak athleticism. So obviously you take some of that dynamic ability away. He's still a very good player. On the Jets, I'm thinking about it. He'd be an interesting fit because I don't know if they already signed McCole Hardman. They got Garrett Wilson. They got Allen Lazard. I don't know where they'd put him, or maybe it just means McCole Hardman's backup. Kind of get the gears spinning there. But on the Pats, I think if you want him as that Z or slot, that's perfect. And that's exactly what they need. So he fits a need. You don't give up draft capital. So, yeah, I'm all for it if they can make it happen for cheap.
Yeah, but he's still hanging out there. I am not for it. I'm not. I don't think he's got anywhere near enough left to bring in a guy who, you're going to pay something and demands the ball. I hate receivers that demand the ball because that means throw it to me when I'm covered. The Patriots.
If you catch it?
If you catch it. But again, I don't think Beckham's been that guy for a while. You know what I mean? Is I don't think that's that. If you were once upon a time that guy, that's great. Everyone loves open receivers. That's the best receiver is the open receiver. Getting open is the key to getting the ball. If you're not getting open or defenses are scheming for you and making it hard for you to get open, it's smart for the offense to not throw you the ball. This idea of force feeding guys, yeah, in some cases you should, but Beckham's doesn't qualify anymore. Beckham wants to be treated like one of those alphas who's going to win a lot of contested, catches and should get 10, 12, 14 targets a game, regardless of whether he's covered. And I don't know that he commands that sort of respect anymore. And I think that's what's kind of been his sticking point the last couple of destinations. Give me the ball. And I think the flip side is get open,
I think you're thinking of early years, pre-haircut OBJ. Yeah. Back in the day when he was screwing around with the kicking thing and whatever. Back then he was very much give me the ball, which was fair.
But he was also uncoverable.
Yes, but then he went to the Rams and was an immediate impact player and did make a fuss and wasn't a problem. And they wanted him back, but obviously he was hurt.
Yeah. He had a better run with the Rams.
Yeah, I think if there was another player on the team who was better and actually deserved more touches, I don't think you hear him complain. He's older, he's more mature. I think he learned from a lot of that, what you do, what you don't. Also, he has a ton of reverence for Bill Belichick, which he's been very open about, very honest about. Even when Tom left, and Tom, if he was ever going to come to the Pats, it was when Tom and Bill were here together. But even with Tom gone, he's mentioned that he would come or be interested because of Belichick. So I don't think he's going to be the diva that like shuts down the locker room. And also, you're not doing that to Bill O'Brien. You're not saying, Bill, give me the ball. Like, you're not saying that to O'Brien or Belichick. Neither one of those guys. So I don't think him being, like the kind of diva that people always say he
I'm
is,
not
where he
worried
demands
as
targets.
much
I
about
don't think that's a problem.
I'm not worried about the diva disruptive stuff nearly as much as I am just simply someone who really, really, really wants the ball, and wants to be that alpha. And, again, I'm not entirely sure that he is the alpha type of guy here, but he might be the best guy that the Patriots have. It's easier to go to the Rams, look around and be like, well, they got Cup and he's a friggin' target monster, and there's other people here that can catch the ball. But you come to New England, you look around and be like, who are you throwing to other than me? And I think that's fair. I think it's fair for him to look around and do that. I just don't know if he's a 1-1, and I just don't know how much you need to keep moving. I don't know how much you want to keep going for, like, wannabe one sort of guys, and if that helps you at all.
But to be fair, I don't think any of these guys at this point in their career are 1-1s.
No,
DeAndre
Judy
Hopkins
might be the only.
not. Judy could be.
Judy's the only one that has a shot at it, I think.
That's the point. Yeah, like that's why he's the only guy where I'll actually get pretty excited, because we've seen that he can do it at the NFL level, make crazy plays as a professional. And it's okay if you get him into a good system with good coaching, structure, consistency, then you can maximize that. And then he becomes a player that Beckham and DeAndre Hopkins just aren't physically capable of being at this point in their careers.
Yeah.
But yeah, none of them are 1As right now. They're all 1B, 1C, 2A kind of options.
Yep. Yeah, they are. And again, I think that's where we're going to get kind of stuck here, is trying to figure out, like, it's always a cost benefit analysis. Is it the OBJ, who you don't have to give up any draft capital? Is he worth it because it's just money, versus Judy, which will be a lot of draft capital, but has the potential to be a number one, versus Hopkins, it might be a little cheaper. That's the right now, like, what people are trying to wrestle with here, and I'm not really sure the right one. I guess
and it's also important to remember that the draft is loaded with the kind of guys they want, where it's, the shifty, the guy who can separate, the guy who's good after the catch. There's plenty of those guys in the draft, so that's another reason why I don't think there's a huge push for these guys, because it's like, all right, we lose out on you, then I'll just use the pick I was going to give to get Jerry Jeudy to get like a Josh Downs type.
Yeah, fair enough. So again, you're the GM. Again, I'll stack it up one more time, and then we'll leave this conversation until there's actual movement. Jeudy for a second, Hopkins for a third, Odell for free. Odell for nothing, but for money.
Odell for money. Yeah, I'm good with that. Sign me up.
That's your guy?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm cool with that. But Jeudy, Judy's at the very top of the list, and at this point, it's not particularly close. Again, unless you get OBJ for a decent amount of money, where it's not like, okay, you didn't throw him a bag. I don't even think he really wants a bag anyway. I've heard that he's leaning more towards wanting to be with a good quarterback and being in a championship team rather than money. He's getting money plenty other places. The dude probably has a ton of endorsements. So yeah, I Judy's my number one, Odell's my number two, and Hopkins is a pretty distant three if he's cheap.
Where do you think Odell? Like, give me your Odell target. Give me your Odell projected stats here. Does he slot into your clear cut one?
I think he's a clear cut one just because he's got the reputation. Until he shows he can't do it. Like if you put him in the Jacoby Myers role last year, he's probably I don't want to say, because they have so many players, they do like to spread the ball out. I think he's like a 900-yard receiver. If you really are like, all right, you're a new Jacoby, like we're putting the offense through you. Yeah, I think he can manage that workload.
Very interesting. Okay, well, we'll see. And again, there's no movement on it, and we keep waiting for it. And hopefully at some point we'll get it. But for now, it is what it is with the Patriots stuff. An interesting debate kind of going around here is something I wanted to hit on. Then we'll kind of take some of your questions here as well, is whether or not there was an article written recently that let me see if I can find it. The article written recently talking about how it was by Ben Volen, Boston Globe. Patriots upgraded. They upgraded. Now Mac has no excuses. Okay. Yeah. This premise became whether or not I saw your eye roll. I'm saying the premise of the article is what's interesting. Yeah. The idea that the Patriots have improved so much that now it's a prove it year for Mac Jones because he's got what he needs. And the premise is something that I want to talk about, not whether or not anything with the article itself.
Mhm.
That's what I found most interesting. I know you put something up on Twitter responding to Mike Giardi, who responded to that article, and I'm going to read yours first. I agree the offense could use at least one more mismatch and youth at tackle, but urgently on the right. I don't think this does the O'Brien and Clem additions enough justice. Mistakes in coaching held them back last year, much more, which is also improved. My tweet was weighing in on this whole no excuses thing and the offensive upgrades conversation. This is still a bottom third of the league skill position group with a mid QB and O-line. Even if O'Brien is Andy Reid, there's a lot of personnel issues still to overcome in order to get him into an upper echelon sort of discussion. So I think we're spending a lot of time on what they had last year and how big the improvement is. That's not debatable. The question is, how good can you be with a still at best really mid group of personnel pieces? And again, it's not a knock on Mac Jones to say he's more of a mid-tier quarterback. I actually think last year he played closer to like a bottom third of the league quarterback than he did even somebody who's in the 13, 14, 15 range. So you're talking about an outside the top 10 quarterback almost certainly, even in a good year. I think at best he's knocking on the door, but he's probably closer to mid-range NFL quarterback with a mid-range offensive line. They're not maulers. They're not terrific. They're okay. They're pretty good, and they still need some help, right? And you cannot argue that this is still a bottom third of the league group of skill positions unless they get another player or two in the draft or through a trade.
Yes.
I think what I'll say is you may disagree, but I do believe that any assessments to the contrary are based on optimistic projections rather than actually what we've seen right now. I think they're optimistic projections of where Thornton could be and what Gesicki could become in this offense, but there's not a team in the league that hasn't added a piece or two that thinks they can do great there. We're literally talking about just the names on the paper. If you went down the entire league, you're going to get to 20 teams whose overall, arsenal of weapons is better than the Patriots without even being able to debate any of those. And then you get into 21, 22, 23, and right around there, you're like, that might be where they reside.
Yeah. So, I mean, first with the Mac thing, I don't like talking about last season strictly because any former players I listen to or anybody who has reputable knowledge about the actual game understands that last year was not a fair evaluation of what he does. And it makes way more sense to assume that he is going to be a better version of his rookie self. And that's after he did cut down on a lot of the mistakes that were coming up, like the turnovers. Was turning the ball over like crazy to start the year, and it sparked all the Bailey Zappi discussions, myself included. I said, if Mac keeps turning it over, Bailey Zappi should be playing because you can't sustain that, especially when the offense isn't good enough to overcome that.
Totally.
He stopped. He started making better decisions. I thought a lot of the interceptions he threw as a rookie also, there were times when he was in his first year where he would look at the defense and it would be very clear, like a cover two, and he would just force the ball in there, or he would make throws where you're just hopefully he learns from this and never does that again. And he didn't. So I think there's plenty of things that you could nitpick, 100%. But when you consider the lack of not only offensive coordinator, but quarterback coach, he was clearly going to take a step back. Now it's a quantum leap forward because he had the good rookie year. He now has the humility, and I don't really know what you gained from last season, frankly. But he's an athlete. I'm sure he'll find something, and it'll help him improve in that way. But also having a mind like Bill O'Brien, who knows Bama's system, who knows their system, who has interacted with Mac even before he got here, and they understand how each other likes to learn and communicate things like that mutual respect. I just don't see how you say, all right, Mac is going to be the 15th best quarterback in the league. I just don't think that's necessarily the case because of his skill set and the fact that he's a distributor. And they've surrounded him with pieces where, you don't have to be Aaron Rodgers dropping in the bucket every play, but he's going to get the ball to the right person, make the right reads, make an accurate throw that makes it more possible for them to get yards after the catch. And we've seen I'm not saying he's Brady, obviously, but we've seen how Brady just doing his job. He doesn't always have to be the Tom Brady. A lot of his best games were him just making smart decisions. And then when you couple that with great coaching, with a defense that should be improved, although we'll see where exactly they're at after the draft, a special teams unit that should improve. You don't have to be a top 10 offense. If the defense is still top 10, top 12, and the special teams is around that way, then I think that's
I don't disagree. You can win different ways, Taylor. That's less the argument. The argument is Bill O'Brien has to do extremely heavy lifting and be a transcendent offensive coach to take this offense to a upper level. Meaning,
But what does transcendent mean? Like, everyone says that. I keep hearing like, oh, he has to do all like what does that mean? I know what it means. What does it mean?
Look at the Chiefs' weapons last year. Travis Kelce is elite, but the rest were guys that were pretty good, right? Okay. Even still, probably on a par with what New England currently has, or a slight edge because Kelce is actually an elite game changer at his position. But you have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Okay, so we don't have Patrick Mahomes here.
The Patriots have much better depth, I think, than the Chiefs did last year. Like, much better depth at
that's
receiver
fine,
and tight end.
But you also are talking about possibly the best quarterback who's ever lived, or second best quarterback literally today after Brady. I don't know where else you're going with that conversation. Versus Mac Jones, who you can count in the AFC alone, 8-9 guys that are better than him without him really having a chance of getting above those guys. And that's not being mean to Mac Jones. There's just a lot of talent right now, and a lot of it is in the AFC. I don't think so Mac could have his best season ever and still be, not within the top 10 of NFL quarterbacks with a group of receivers that again are very, very I
disagree. If you have a great offensive coordinator and a great quarterback, that makes everyone better. Now, if they get like a really good right tackle,
other teams have coaches too. That's the thing, is like the other teams that the Patriots aren't the only team that has a good offensive coordinator. That's the thing. Like we're acting like they're the only Mac's the only guy who's going to get coached next year. Like, that's not the case.
Yeah, okay. Yes, I feel like we're just kind of talking in circles at this point. But my point is that if you have Bill O'Brien having game plans where you know that your player has the best matchup possible and can win that matchup, if things change in the process of the game and you make the right adjustments to where, okay, this isn't working because, whatever, they're traveling with who's their number one? We don't even know. If Tyquan Thornton blows up and teams say, okay, we got to take him away, you adjust, you find ways to win. I think that's what's important. And obviously, we're not going to know because the roster isn't complete yet. So I couldn't even really tell you what exactly it's going to look like. But if you have a quarterback who's making the plays that are there, like, the point is to go down the field and score. I think they can do that fairly well and more than competently with the pieces that they already have. Mac did it as a rookie. Last year, like, there were times where it was absolutely awful and they wouldn't move the ball. But you'd also see there were plenty of times where it's like moving the ball isn't the problem. They can't score or they can't generate enough explosive plays and there's not consistency. All those things that are tethered to the fact it was bad coaching. So I think there's enough that you've seen from Mac where if he's surrounded by good coaching and also just enough talent, he'll be fine. I'm not saying it's top 10. I don't think you need to be top 10. I think it can be top 12.
It's the enough talent that's the bigger question than how far Mac Jones can go. Mac Jones, we all understand, is somebody who is supposed to have good processing and be able to get the ball out quick. You saw less of it last year because everything was a freaking mess. So you didn't see some of the traits of his that are supposed to be his best traits, and he was throwing the ball all over the place, missing open receivers, was a mess. I'm throwing last year out and pretending that he's going to grow on what we saw his rookie year, which it's still, I don't think the ceiling is as high as you're saying, but I'm taking Mac and putting him over here. I'm saying, who is he throwing to that's going to help elevate him? Like, where's the mismatches? Where's the thing about the offense that's going to be a problem for teams?
Mike Gesicki and Hunter Henry are much bigger matchup problems than I think people realize. One, like Hunter Henry, I know for some reason people think that like Gesicki's slow.
No, even though he was one of the most athletic. Combine freak.
Exactly. Like maybe it was just Brian Phillips. I love you, Brian, but he was in my GMs telling me that Gesicki was like slow.
No, so he's a combine freak in terms of his physicality.
So you have two legitimate matchup weapons at tight end. At running back, you had Ramondre Stevenson doing a lot, but he wasn't even great in that role. And the projection is they're going to get somebody who's better. So that gives you three people who you can control the middle of the field with. Then, all right, you got them going downfield as the big bodies who can separate on corners, crossers, and everything. You got Juju, who can get those yards after the catch that we're talking about. You got Devontae Parker, who I know he's not going to separate, but he made some ridiculous catches last year down the sideline. Obviously, his availability is, we don't really know yet. But then Tyquan Thornton, you draft him in the second round. He's quick. He's fast. He's a good route runner. He has plenty of places to improve, and he needs to be more consistent. But he's more than good enough to be like, if he has a good second year and becomes the kind of player that they can rely on consistently, that's the piece where it's okay. Now the offense is legit. But again, that's a projection, and I understand why it's hard to really bank on that, and I completely agree. But when you look at the veterans that they have and the talent that's been proven in the NFL, I think it's enough that they can dominate the middle of the field, do enough on the outside to keep defenses honest, and then people just for some reason forget that the run game exists. Like, they don't have one of the best interior offensive lines in football, one of the best inside runners in football in Stevenson, a couple young guys in Harris and Strong who have a lot of potential.
I know, but
James
there's a lot of good. I mean, running backs are fairly interchangeable, and I do think that the running game is the running game more so than having a once in a generation talented running back that he himself creates stuff without it being blocked well. The running game is decent. Again, we're not throwing it in the trash, but you're just literally looking at how are they going to move the ball? And you look at up and down the AFC. Bills, more weapons. Dolphins, more weapons. Jets, more weapons. Bengals, more weapons.
Yeah,
Steelers,
but offenses don't play
Browns,
offenses. Offenses play defenses.
Jaguars.
So, like, who are we talking about? Like, I do think the Patriots defense, I think really the only
Chargers,
offense that scares
Raiders,
me is
Broncos.
Josh Allen.
I mean, the entire
Josh
AFC.
Allen is the only quarterback where I think legitimately if they go against him, more often than not, I'm going to say, okay, yeah, no, you actually have to score 35 points because you're not going to stop him. He's played Belichick so many times. He is so patient in a way that he isn't when he plays most other teams. Josh Allen's the only guy where I'm like, yeah, no, you have to be great. They held Tua to one touchdown in week 1, and it was on a missed tackle that went for a huge play. Like, these offenses aren't playing, the offense is playing Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. They're playing those teams' defenses.
We're not talking about whether they can win some games. We're talking about whether this offense that was a mess last year is fixed simply by swapping out Jonnu for Gesicki, swapping out Myers for Juju, and bringing Bill O'Brien in. Does that fix it all? We're talking about
another thing. It is so early in the offseason. We're going to look like idiots if they draft Zay Flowers, and we've had this whole debate about do they have enough weapons.
You're going to look smart. I'll look like an idiot. You don't have to worry.
I'm just saying, man, like it's so crazy that we're saying all these things when the process isn't close to done. They could go out and trade for a receiver before camp after camp, you know?
We're debating the premise of an article of a day ago that now that the Patriots have upgraded, is it all on Mac's shoulders? And I disagree. They can't be done and feel good about it. And we're not talking.
I agree.
That's what I'm talking about.
I agree.
And they have not done enough where all of a sudden it's like, there you go, Mac. I got you a whole bunch of new toys. They didn't. They swapped a couple pieces out that may fit better. The major upgrades, as you keep saying, which I agree are what they did with the coaching, but it was so bad last year. You're upgrading just simply by getting rid of them, you know? So that's a given. We're literally talking about personnel wise. Have they done enough to be like, go get them, Mac? And I don't know that that's the case yet. It's not that they're dead in the water and they're going to show up on week 1 and not have, they could trade for one guy and draft 2 explosive players in the, you know, and Thornton could take off and you're like, oh my God, look at all of what's going on here. There's things that could happen. We're just literally looking at what they have currently and saying, did they do so much that you could just basically be like, all right, go get them, Mac. We got you what you needed. I don't think they did that.
True, but I think if you even look at his rookie year and the talent he had that year and what he was able to do, like that, they had some solid pieces. That is an offense I'd be more concerned about in hindsight.
Yeah.
Because Nelson Aguilar is going to give you like very, very little. Bourne, you can't really count on him because we haven't seen him be that consistent guy, but obviously has the playmaking ability. But Johnny wasn't, making a lot of great plays other than the check downs. It was really Hunter Henry was the guy who was dominating, and obviously Jacoby Myers because he was just sucking up all the targets. But if you look at the offense he had as a rookie and the fact that obviously he was a Pro Bowl alternate, like we're not going to sit here and be like, hey, he was playing at a Pro Bowl level, but he was good enough that people were actually talking about him and he was in the conversation to even be a part of the Pro Bowl process. This year, you would have laughed if anybody told you that Mac might have been a Pro Bowler. So we've already seen what he can do with that great offensive coordinator with inferior weapons his first year in the NFL. So I think that what they have now is, again, I think they need to get better if they want, and I've said this repeatedly, they're probably in the top 12, top 15 conversation right now, which I think is enough with the team that they have to win you games, get to the playoffs, and make a legitimate run. But I think if they get like a Zay Flowers, a Jerry Jeudy, I don't even think Hopkins really necessarily puts them there. But I think if you get one of those young, explosive playmakers, that's where, okay, we're talking about them in the top 10. And now the whole talk about he doesn't have enough weapons is gone because you have that 1A. And then it's, oh, whoa, now they're kind of stacked because they have the 2 legitimate receiving tight ends. They have all these other receivers where outside of, outside of Juju, they're either unproven or they can't stay healthy. But it's fine when you have one guy that you can rely on week in and week out, and then everybody else plays their role. I think that's fine. But I still think they can be a good offense with the pieces they have.
If the Patriots were facing a team right now with their defense and the players they had to account for were Hunter Henry, Mike Gesicki, Juju Smith-Schuster, would you be like, Patriots defense is going to be in for a long one today?
I'm trying to think.
I just don't think we would view it that way. I think there's hope because it's here and you can see promise. But if the Patriots were playing a team with Kirk Cousins as the quarterback and Cousins was throwing to Gesicki, Henry, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Kendrick Bourne, I don't think you'd be like, wow, matchup problems all over the field. How are they going to defend this offense? I don't believe we'd be saying that. I really don't.
I think it would be one of those games where I'm saying they can't make any mistakes because I think that if you have the run game going or at least something they can respect, that takes a lot off your shoulders because then you're not in all these obvious passing situations where a team might just man you up and then it gets a little harder and then it really is, okay, we have to just kind of throw it up and let somebody catch it unless, again, Thornton takes that step. I'm not going to sit here and say that I think they would fucking put up 20 points against the Patriots defense. Absolutely not. But I think it's a game where you say, okay, ball control. We try to run the game, stay balanced. We cannot let this game get away from us and turn into we got to end up being the Mahomes or anything like that. And that's where you add the piece and that changes. But I absolutely agree. I think they need to be balanced, but I feel like people forget all the other parts of the offense that are still very good. And if they upgrade that right tackle spot, it becomes a top 5 unit. The biggest question mark is, I think so. Mikey Wendy was a Pro Bowl snub. David Andrews is still one of the best centers in football. Cole Strange should take another step after he didn't allow a sack at the end of his career. One of the
worst guards in football last year.
Stop listening to PFF. I'm the one who watches and knows the system and doesn't have to go by some stupid arbitrary grading metric. PFF, I have so much respect for you, but I don't respect their grades because they have to follow a rubric. So from what I saw, Cole Strange had a very, very impressive end to his rookie year, especially considering he did legitimately struggle. And I was concerned in the middle of the year thinking, is he going to figure it out? Because these 2-hand punches that he's trying all the time, they don't work. And the team's really good defensive linemen, every single week we're beating it. And you stop seeing that towards the end of the year. And he's still a very good run blocker. And then you got Trent Brown, whereas he doesn't make all the bonehead mistakes. He's still a very, very good left tackle. He can play I think he's better on the right, frankly, but he's still a good tackle. So you got that and the run game. And obviously the pass game is huge. At the end of the day, if it's a 2-minute drill, you need to know you have the guys that can get down the field. But I do think they have the pieces to still be a good offense, just not a great if the run game is crazy good. But right now, I think it's fair to say that they're not scary, but I think they can be more than competent.
You have taken shots so far this show at PFF, a Boston Globe reporter. You just now.
I don't think anybody's gonna fault me for that one.
You get salty again. So you are at this point looking at a Patriots offense that has to be perfect. You need perfect protection. And you need precision, and you're going to have to, I hate the dink and dunk term, but you're going to be operating in small chunks, not big chunks, because there's no chunk players on your team, with the exception of the occasional jump ball to Devontae that you might throw on the outside. Of course, Thornton is possible. You just don't know what you have yet because you haven't seen it yet, but obviously someone that potentially could. But again, what's killed this team over time is trying to run a Tom Brady offense without Tom Brady. Find the guy, move it, quick strike, get up and down the field. It's hard to be perfect. It's what the Patriots used to do to teams. I dare you to make 15 plays and get up and down the field. Eventually, you'll muck it up, take a penalty, take a sack, turn it over. I'll get the ball back. You're done.
That's what they are when they're good.
Or I'll hold you to a field goal. But you're creating an offense where you really have to kind of be like a machine, right? Because I don't think there's not a lot of big chunk plays to be had on this team at this moment.
Well, I mean, what are you talking about as a chunk play?
I mean,
Like a
there's not
chunk play could be
you're not going
play
to get a
action
lot of
crosser to Myers. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think you're getting a lot of explosive plays out of this group right now. You don't have separators, you don't have field stretchers right now. You have, as you said, guys who can operate a little bit in the middle, and some guys who you hope if you get the ball in their hands can do a little stuff with some yak,
I
for
don't think
sure.
you don't have those. I think you don't have them to the level where you can pencil them in and say, yes, they've done it before all these times. Like Juju and Gesicki, obviously Gesicki had a down year because he wasn't used properly, and Juju was the number 2 to Kelsey and kind of even number 3 because of MBS. But that's the thing is they have potential field stretchers. They have potential separators, but it's okay. I want to see you do it on the field. And like Hunter Henry, I think right now may be their most consistent separator. I had a whole compilation where he's going up against safeties, which is what you would think would be the tougher matchup for him. And he's like burning these guys. So you want to see him be able to use to his best abilities. And that's another thing where I say like Bill O'Brien makes this such a better team because Hunter Henry has 11 touchdowns through 2 seasons. And I think he only caught 2 last year.
Yeah.
Like that is someone whose contract is being wasted because this guy could be catching 10 touchdowns for you in a season, should at least be getting 1 red zone target a week. And he was completely gone for most of last year. You know what I'm saying? So it's things like that where you say, oh, this team isn't good enough. But if you literally use the players you have the way they're supposed to be used, Kendrick Bourne, wink, wink, yeah, then your offense gets a lot better with the guys you have. But again, they have to go on the field. They have to prove it. They have to show all these things, which is why I get so worked up with these projections.
I
my
like
brain
it.
just starts flying. But I mean, and also Tyquan Thornton is posting workout videos literally every day. So he's making a concentrated effort to bulk up. I'm literally checking to see if there's a day that he skips, and he's every single day he's going.
So you're saying get Lamar Jackson? I'm just kidding. Let's take a couple questions from you guys before. I just want to see if I can.
I was like, do I even entertain him?
I want to see if I can make your actual head explode. No, the chat started in on Lamar. Guys, throw a couple questions Taylor's way. So he can stop getting mad at shit I tell him. So anything you want to throw out here football wise before we wrap it up in the next 5 to 10 minutes.
All right, let's see what we got.
Huh? Come on, bring it to us. Should you get Lamar Jackson? Question 1.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
Oh my God, I thought you were serious. I was like, please don't make me do this again. I talked myself in a circle last time we brought it up. I don't think my brain can handle that.
No.
Just taking A.J. Brown. Oh, yeah, no. If you take an A.J. Brown instead of N'Keal Harry, yeah, the entire history of the Patriots changes. Brady probably doesn't leave. Honestly, oh my God, I don't want to answer that question now. It's making me sad. Yeah.
We have some Hopkins stuff, but we've seen that. This is an off the board one. What happened to Ronnie Perkins?
I don't know. I was doing my roster grades, and I didn't really know what to give. He's never played a regular season snap. I know he got hurt. I think that was what it was past 2 seasons. He looks like a solid edge, kind of in the Anthony Jennings mold where he may be a little bit more one-dimensional, but I couldn't tell you. And I've never seen him in person, so I can't really say.
We've talked about this a bit, but again, your number 1 wish list at 14. And again, it's really more about the player than the position. But if you had the lean position, which way?
I want to say tackle just because Riley Reef is solid, but I don't want him starting 17 plus games for it.
Well, PFF said that he was. I'm just kidding.
Okay. I'm getting bullied now.
I'm not.
I will say though, in all seriousness,
trust me, I trust your assessment more than theirs, and certainly more than mine. So I'll defer to you.
There's some great people there. They do a lot of great work. It's just like when you work under a certain system and you don't have the insight of the team, and it's just there's a lot of convolution in their grades. It's not their fault, their business. But yeah, I'm not trying to be mean to PFF.
I know you're not. Would you trade up for Jalen Carter if he fell closer to 14? He's not falling close to 14.
Yeah, he's not. But hell yeah, he's a freak. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
As much as I like Barmore, I'm sorry, I mispronounced it, but yeah, as much as I like him, he can't stay healthy. So yeah, if you want to freak on the defensive line, hell yeah, I'm down.
Trey Nixon. I don't even know if he's still alive.
Probably not. I mean, if you're not impressing me in the preseason consistently, I don't have, I don't have a lot of faith. But, maybe he has a good camp and we see something else out of him. But yeah, I don't know.
How do you feel about the Jalen Mills situation?
Really good because he followed me. So hell yeah, go Jalen Mills. Yeah, that was pretty sick. But honestly, no, I think it's a really good get for them. I've heard Evan talk about this as well. I think he's spot on. I think Jalen Mills is going to be more of their tight end coverage specialist, like we've seen. Even when they were talking about bringing back Aqib Talib a few years ago, they literally called him and said, "We want you to cover tight ends," which is a role they clearly value. And I think that would free up Duggar to play more zone, be able to read the quarterback and what plays on the ball. Whereas, I think he did have one interception in man coverage. But really where you see him make most of his plays is when he's reading and attacking. And in the man coverage, I just don't think it's great for Duggar's skill set. So, yeah, I think Mills could be good there. Doesn't have a ton of experience at free safety, but he was okay there, although, the tackling and pursuit angles worried me a little bit. But I think he's a great addition. He was good covering receivers. He's going to be great covering tight ends, except for I think the really elite guys who have crazy catch radiuses because he doesn't have the best ball skills. But I do like the deal. They also got him for less money, so works for me.
I want a couple people put this in the chat. Guys, the titles have to be really short. We're not saying, we didn't intimate in the title the Patriots are getting DeAndre Hopkins. We're just talking about DeAndre Hopkins. Yeah. Never at any point here are we trying to trick you into thinking that they signed him jump on the stream.
This is not a hot take, or at least on this side of the chat. Yeah. There's not going to get a lot of hot takes.
But we're also not faking it. We're not pretending they're getting DeAndre Hopkins. It's just a DeAndre Hopkins ? Shoulder slot. It's really more to talk about what's going on, which is nothing. But
what a reason to have conversations with you guys.
We're just here to chat, guys. We're just here to chat. Let's see anything else. We talked about this one, Judy or D Hop. It's probably more Judy. Anything else here?
Oh, tight end draft. That's a good question. I think they draft at least one. You kind of have to. You don't have any depth there. And Scotty Washington and Matt Sokol were okay when they were in there, but obviously not guys you want starting for you, I don't think.
But you've got these awesome field-stretching tight ends in Henry and Gesicki. What do you need? The
contract is up next season.
I know.
I'm thinking long-term.
The contract is up for everyone next season.
Yeah.
You know how many guys
Hunter Henry's. I can't wait to revisit this when Hunter Henry gets his extension.
You know how many guys they got under contract next year? I think we talked about this before.
Yeah, but I gave him on my list. Hunter Henry was one of the guys I could definitely see getting extended.
But it's like 35.
35. Oh, yeah. I mean, but you also have to look at the quality of player. Like,
it's
35
low.
Is a big number, but who are you actually going to lose?
You're not, but you're talking about 35 with about 140 in cap space potentially next year.
Right. Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's interesting looking ahead to it. Another one or two, and then we're going to wrap. Anybody else got something?
I feel like I've seen Cooper Kupp come up a couple of times.
It's Cooper one Kupp guy.
Make a ton of sense. Oh, is it one guy? You just keep saying it,
and he's trying to speak it into existence.
I agree. I appreciate the persistence. Cooper Kupp would be perfect. I don't see how that would possibly happen, but yeah, that'd be dope.
No. That's basically it. And again, we are spinning our wheels a little bit here, but we are going to start to ramp up some serious draft content. Tomorrow we'll jump on here and it'll be questions only. It'll be a mailbag sort of show. So we'll post something on Patriots CLNS and we'll post something on Taylor's Twitter where he will start to solicit a few questions. We will put it up there. And we will talk about it and kind of get your sense on what's going on. But it's the holding pattern portion of the season right now. So really all I can do is try to get Taylor worked up a little bit. But there's really not a lot going on here. So, we will jump back on if there's any sort of breaking news. And hold on.
I literally am talking until I'm blue in the face.
We're not getting nobody. We might get somebody. We don't know, guys. We don't know. We're here to just kind of BS and talk about the latest going on with football, and whatever is going on at the moment. It's very little. It's very quiet, despite what Scott Zolak. Oh, that's the other one you took a shot at, Zolak.
Oh yeah, but I don't really think I made a bad move.
Your enemies list is high. We'll remind you again if you're interested in signing up here to get in on some betting here in Massachusetts. Go FanDuel.com/Boston and get your $200 in bonus bets when you make a $5 deposit. $5 wager, $10 deposit. So check it out, FanDuel.com/Boston. We're going to wrap it. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. Sorry we don't have more news, but, we can't make the news. We're just here to kind of talk about what's going on. So I apologize you guys didn't get as much news out of this as you wanted, but we are happy to chat with you guys. We'll be back tomorrow and take some